Ladies and gentlemen, Big Hairy News.
Hey, kia ora koutou, it's whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chlöe.
Kia ora, Pat.
2 nights in a row.
It's like I'm here. It's hump day. It's all going well.
It's a weird thing, that. Hey, everybody, have you noticed? You notice we're in the new merch. What do you think? What do you think?
This is what I mean by the merch is pre-worn.
Pre-squeezed in.
Pat tries all of them on before he sends them
this
out
is
to
a
sure
small
quality.
It's a small, that's why
It was a
looked like
small. It was a
Zeppelin in a condom. You know what is quite funny, though? There would be the odd person, I guarantee it, there would be the odd person that might get a single white hair in with their gear. And if you do, it's a little bit of nala. Just to you from us. It's just a little bit of nala. So that does happen sometimes. We kind of go, oh, just pick that one off. Oh, that's fine. So maybe that could be seen by you lot as just a bit lucky. Hello team, and look, let me show you straight away. This is my four heads t-shirt. I got it on black, but I might have made a mistake, Chewy. Because I remember when I got the Nicky No Boats, I did myself a black one, and I thought then I might have made a mistake because the blue is pretty tight. The blue is pretty tight. And Emily was right. She suggested a blue t-shirt to kind of complement the four colours. And the blue is pretty tight. And I was just before I started the show, I was out there at the standing desk, packaging up the last of the orders. So if you haven't had a notification yet, there's a couple of people left. You should be getting one tomorrow when I take all these to the post shop and then send you a notification. The blue's pretty tight. It's pretty sharp. I quite like it.
If we're talking about colorways, like I should have been brave. I should have said this yesterday.
Yeah.
I know you're talking about the hot pink BHN logo hoodie, right? And sure, hot pink and fucking black. That's dope.
Yeah.
But we are so close to a BHN hoodie in ACT colours. The pink's already there.
Oh, that
pink and yellow. BHN ACT hoodies. I reckon they'd sell like hotcakes. I reckon we could get bloody Brooke GPT to wear one.
I thought that what we could do one day is we could get like some special edition BHN gear, maybe, because you can get vinyls that are like gold and sparkly, like they're quite cool, and do like one gold sparkly one and say, like, do a one gold sparkly one that's a Nicky No Boats, and we'll put it on Trade Me, and the person who bids the highest for it pays for it, and then we send it to Nicky No Boats. So you get the honour of having the Nicky No Boats one sent to Nicky No Boats. That's what you're bidding on. And see if we can raise some money that way. That's just a thought. Anyway, just to remind you all, because the pink, there's a little bit of pink left. But we have got the merch store open, and there are the new brands there. So that's the one I'm wearing, the black one. And that's the blue one, which I like the black one, but there's something about that blue one. Where'd the blue one go? There it is. Something about that blue one, which is pretty fly as well. And be more going out there tomorrow. And just as a reminder, not to belabor this point too much tonight, there is new pricing with the merch coming. As you can see, it's gone up by, I think, $5 and $10 because our costs have gone up. But I've still got some of the merch that I purchased before the increase in price. And so I've kept them at the old price. I'm going to keep them at the old price till the end of this week. So if you want to get one of the, we'll call it the old merch. That sounds like it's lesser. The classic merch, it'll stay at the old price until the end of this week.
And look, and with it being the Tino buffers there, look, Pat and I stayed online quite a bit after the show yesterday, talking about our plans for Waitangi and that sort of thing.
to take over the world. one step towards Waitangi at a time.
Well, we got plans. But look, once again in the news cycle, we're talking about how this government absolutely isn't being racist towards Māori or Māori culture or Te Reo or anything like that. But it seems every time they do something, it's Māori on the receiving end. Too many Te Reo words in a primer reader book.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
well, and as you know, in fact, if you're new to us, kia ora, welcome. If you're not entirely sure what this buffer thing is all about, I'll tell you, it only takes a few seconds. We do this buffer brand as a way that those of us who aren't a part of a community can support that community. I used to have this co-host called Chlöe, and Chlöe asked Professor Margaret Mutu one of the greatest questions ever asked on this show. I'll play it for you.
I just have one question.
He's a very loud, hairy man, though. I don't know if I like him.
Look at that beard.
There's a lot of talk with people that watch our show and that sort of thing about what the best. What in your opinion? What's the most?
You do look like you've just come off like a movie set, or you've done that like 1,000 days alone to win $1 million or something.
From the bottom of a
way
cave.
Yeah.
the Pākehā can support Māori in this fight, so that
That's my nodding. My nodding. So, yeah, I want to be a part of this question. That's a good question. I want some reflected glory from Chewy for this question. That's why I'm nodding so vigorously. Make sure everybody knows that I agree with this, so I can get some of the glory from this great question.
they don't feel like they're doing it all by themselves.
Good question.
Oh, thank you very much for that question.
Great question.
Because it's one of the things, my Ngāti Kahu, so I'm the chair of Ngāti Kahu way up in the far north. And I've asked them what instructions that I could take to Tūranga Waiwai. And one of them was that we ask our Tauiwi allies, which includes our Pākehā allies, if they could please come and help us by being a buffer between us and the Crown, and challenge the government, challenge the Crown, because if you can see what's happening to us, for heaven's sake, instead of us having to say it, because they don't listen to us, instead of us having to say it, would you please say it?
It's a really cool perspective as well, because there are some out there that think, for example, Pākehā, and speaking on behalf of Māori, they, the white saviour complex sort of thing. But actually, I'm happy to listen to Professor Margaret Mutu and go, not step into a place where we're not wanted or not needed, but it's sort of to be prepared for when we are needed. That's sort of the idea of buffer. And we realised that it's not just, it's not just Māori that we're not a part of the community. When I say we, I mean me and Chewy and many people watching. So we've done one for Gaza, and we raised some money for medical aid for Palestine, MAPS, I think it was. And we've done one for the Daffodil Day for cancer research, and we raised some money for
Women's
them.
Refuge.
Women's Refuge as well. Raised some. Oh, did we raise some money? Yeah, we did. No, of course we did. We bought those nights. Raised some money for Women's Refuge. So we've kind of turned it into we can show support to our community, even if we're not a part of it. But it all started with Professor Margaret Mutu telling us to be buffers. And so, Chewy's talking about our talk and our conversations around Waitangi last night. And at the moment, we're green light thinking. Right, anything's possible because we've had no pushbacks yet, and there's still lots of time. And we're going do we do a merch tent? Do we get up there and have our gear all over the place so people can come and buy it? Do we have a Mad Butcher barbecue every day? Probably not. Not that one, but didn't actually talk about that, but I forgot to tell you about that, Joe. So that's what the buffer brand is. It's about, and anyone can wear them, obviously, but the Tino Rangatiratanga one was specifically put together to say, we can identify ourselves as people who are supporting these Māori issues that this arsonist government is stomping all over. And so, right back to the original thing, that the classic designs, which buffer is one of them, are all at the old prices at the moment, and probably next week there'll be a bit more. So if you want to save yourself 10 or 20 bucks, get them this week. And if you've got one already on order and you're waiting, I'm pretty sure we've got all, unless I've made an error, they should all be on the courier by tomorrow. So we'll see. All right, my dude. We are going to talk about that story tonight, the Te Reo story in books.
I'm glad we are.
Because Erica's come out today, Minister of Education, sounds like has doubled down. And it's not just these 6 words. It's now turned into only people's names, nothing else. Only people's names. So words like kia ora, and even look like they're getting stricken from these kids' books at a certain level. Now, we are going to play, because we went over her on Q&A on Monday, but we didn't actually play that clip around the Te Reo in class because she had an answer for it, and we don't have limited time, but we sort of do on some level. And so we're actually going to play that clip tonight, and we're going to play a news story tonight. We're talking about what's happening from now. And the best thing, Chlöe, and so often we say, well, what does the research say? What is the best? And there is a researcher, a academic, I think, on 3 News tonight talking about how children in Kura Kaupapa, who obviously are learning Māori, but who obviously mostly will speak English as well, actually are more advanced in reading and writing than kids who aren't. So it kind of poo-poos the whole argument of it might hinder these kids' academic movement. So there you go. Also, we want to go over this Chlöe Swarbrick thing as well again today. I've got some clips from the actual house today, not just the news story, to show you. And also, interesting, Jacinda Ardern saying no to turning up at the hearing. It's interesting because she said yes, she'd do it, and now she's saying no, she wouldn't. And Chlöe, you know this, most of the time I don't feed the trolls. And it seems to be what they're saying is, or it is literally what they're saying, they explained this, that they don't want to basically have footage of them that could be used nefariously by dishonest actors. And I wonder, actually, not turning up is also going to be used nefariously by dishonest actors. Do you want to at least make sure that your words are being used or not? So there's a debate there or not, but they've decided not to do it, and we'll delve a bit into that. And we're actually going to grab Craig Rennie tonight as well, because he has a podcast coming out tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. And he actually talked in tomorrow's podcast, which we recorded today, a little bit about the economy through COVID and some of the lies that are out there at the moment. It kind of dovetails in because, of course, all the usual suspects, Seymour, are saying, well, look at all the money they wasted, all the money. And just by chance, Craig talked about the money in COVID today. So I'm going to grab him on and show you a little bit, not of his podcast, we'll talk live to him, but a little bit of what he'll be talking about in his podcast tomorrow. Anything, Chlöe, you want to throw in there?
Oh, look, I'm sure we'll dive into this a little bit more. I know you subscribe to the view of don't feed the trolls.
Mostly.
Usually.
You got to put a mostly on there.
I've been pretty good lately. Like, I get all of my feelings out on this, where I used to just spew it out everywhere on Facebook.
What the fuck is that all about?
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But hey, look, the algorithm keeps on serving National Party's Facebook posts to me.
Oh, really?
Look, you can just wade into any of these comment sections, just start calling people the C word or the R word. That's bad. I'm bringing back a new word. I'm bringing back nincompoop.
Oh.
Nincompoop is a very satisfying word to call someone.
It is. Both offensive and humorous at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, National's playing into the fact that Hipkins and Jacinda aren't appearing at this second inquiry because they've appeared at the first one. The only reason that the second one is there is because, as we've covered before, Luxon was too much of a spineless coward and didn't believe that he would have the votes to win the election. So he left a door and a window ajar for Winnie P to sneak in. And when he was there, he had another opportunity to grow a spine and be big businessman doing big business deals.
It's offensive, remember.
And hold strong for the coalition agreement. But no, he caved. He gave Winston Peters his second cooker-based Crown Royal inquiry.
Yeah, so Luxon had to pay back Peters for making him Prime Minister. Peters had to pay back that base for making him a politician again. So that's the line, which means ultimately Luxon is paying that base.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
The only reason that is there, and Winston has seen this semi-coherent group of brainworm, adult, just nincompoops, is I think that when New Zealand First has done a little bit of a stock take and going, why do our voters keep on dying? That's right. They're all old as shit. We need to replace some of them. And they have chosen the guys that went on a camping expedition to Wellington as being that replacement. And that's what you're seeing. You are seeing the results of Winston Peters trying to find people that will listen to him, and the consequences of a spineless jellyfish in a blue suit who couldn't negotiate an agreement to save his life.
It's a pretty interesting picture you just described. A spineless jellyfish. So it's actually even worse than just a jellyfish, a spineless jellyfish.
Well, you need to reiterate the fact that jellyfish don't have spines. So, look, if Emily is listening, as I'm sure you are, just Portuguese man of war, Luxon's face.
Oh, not Portuguese man of war. Portuguese man of war, because that's one of the most deadly things.
I just think that's easy to put a face on.
All right.
I don't know. Jellyfish.
Also, just so the word nincompoop is an unknown origin of the word, but it's believed perhaps.
So can I claim it?
Yeah,
I can.
But it says perhaps in the mid 17th century it was a combination of ninny, meaning a foolish person, and the term poop. The term poop referred to a fool or simpleton.
Poop.
A poop. So there you go. There's another word we can bring back from the 1800s. It's like the word poop.
So good.
1600s.
You nincompoop, you scallywag, you rapscallion.
My favourite is when you're studying English and you're doing Shakespeare and you have a part to figure out what all the words mean, and then you realise all the insults. My favourite was always go shake your ears. Go shake thy ears. All right.
I bite my thumb at you, sir.
I bite my thumb at you, sir. Do you bite your thumb at me? Sorry, Romeo and Juliet.
I just saw a good one in the chat. Where did it go? I'll find it.
No. Okay.
Can't find it.
Here's where we're going to start. And I'm going to go through this. There's a little bit of footage, but it's all kind of short clips. This is the part I laughed out loud, man, when I watched this, because there's a really funny moment. And I cut it out because it's quite long, but it's so long it becomes funny. You know those kinds of comedians, Chewy, who they keep on going with a joke until everyone's groaning. It's like everyone's laughing. It's pretty funny. And then they get to the end. It's an Andy Kofka. Is that the right name? A guy of Taxi, Andy Kaufman. They basically drive the joke until it's no longer funny, which makes it the funniest thing in the world. These guys did that today by calling a vote and then another vote and then another vote to make sure that the place did decide they were going to kick Chlöe out. But here's the minute 42 where they offer Chlöe a chance to apologise again today.
I invite Chlöe Swarbrick to withdraw.
I like that. I invite. So I can decline. You know, like when the police pull you over, well, they don't pull me over, but like you watch online with people and they go, can I have your ID? And you're going, are you asking if you can have it? Are you ordering me to give it to you? Because if you're asking, I'm going to respectfully say no. So if you're inviting, that means she can politely decline and there'd be there'd be no effects afterwards. Word just jumped down.
She's going to get booted anyway. The answer here, the only correct answer here is, how about you invite D's nuts?
Apologise for an offensive comment made in the House yesterday.
I won't be doing that, Mr. Speaker.
Then the member will leave the House.
See you in the parking lot, Jerry.
Yeah, bro. Want to go?
No, the member will leave the House. Sorry, there's not a point of order at this point. The member refusing to leave the House.
I'm going to name you.
I therefore name Chlöe Swarbrick.
Oh.
The question is that Chlöe Swarbrick.
So I won't turn this down. So they take a vote,
Chlöe Swarbrick,
right, for Chlöe to be named and
aye.
removed. And they say aye and they say nay. And then, of course, the left go, we need a count.
A party vote is called for.
Party vote. And what happens next is Christopher Hipkins comes out and goes, point of order, you didn't do that right, sir. And they do it all over again. And the votes are the same. And the left go, what a count. Made me laugh when I saw it.
11 votes in favour.
New Zealand first.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
5 votes opposed.
It is, Brother Monk. I'm with you. It is so dumb. But it made me laugh. I like dumb humour, I guess.
The ayes are 68, the 54, the noes are 54, the motion is agreed. The member will leave the House.
And if you missed that, there was a Free Palestine shouted by Chlöe then. And that's where we go. Oh, that's where I left it. Oh, that's where I decided to leave it. I wasn't aware that I'd cut it that short. Very good. That's where I decided to leave it. And so then Christopher Hipkins goes through this whole thing where he goes, you said those words wrong. And so Jerry Brownlee has to re-say the words correctly and then take a vote. And they'll go, aye, nay. And then the left again goes, we want to count. And by this stage, Chloe's already at Bellamy's having a coffee and they're still going through the process. And on one hand, you can go, I don't really want my taxpayer dollars being wasted in that way. But I guess when people are making a point, I found it pretty amusing. The next part, which is only 40 seconds as well, so just quickies for you today, is then, so Hipkins talked about that. And then Hipkins talked about, this is unprecedented, that you would get someone to apologise the day after they've already had their punishment. And cited a bunch of examples where this doesn't happen, and it hasn't happened, and challenged Jerry Brownlee on why has the rulings changed? And Jerry Brownlee went, meat pies or something like that. And then they moved on. And so then, Ricardo Menendez-March jumped up and he basically wanted to know what offended the speaker. You know, at what point are you going to pearl clutch? And this is important, Drew, because I know you've got some things to share about what the National Party has said in the past. But this is a question from Ricardo Menendez-March, basically saying to him, can you just give us the line for what offends you?
68 members of this House were accused of being spineless. There has never been a time when personal insults like that delivered inside a speech were accepted by this House, and I'm not about to start accepting it.
Gosh, that was
never
quick,
been a time.
I didn't play that.
Never happened.
Well, let's do that again.
In relationship to Speaker's Rulings 23.1, which is what the Right Honourable Chris Hipkins was speaking about, there's a line that says, where an incident may have a continued impact on the House's ability to deal with its business, the Speaker can address the matter. Is it your view that this meets that threshold?
Yeah.
If that's how the member wants to take it. But if you think about...
No, the member wants to understand what this is so they can either walk up to the line and not get kicked out, or at least be able to say when the other side do it, this is the same level.
Comment that was made, 68 members of this House were accused of being spineless.
Pearl clutching.
There has never been a time when personal insults like that delivered inside a speech were accepted by this House, and I'm not about to start accepting it.
Chewy, there's never been a time when telling someone they're spineless. I'm sure what he means is, or any other kind of insult in that sort of genre have been accepted. Now, there's one question to ask about the Right Honourable Winnie P-Boy, is that I think it's pretty well publicised what he's about to do, although news didn't show this clip, they just showed him in the tiles, in that he still voted to have her removed. So I don't quite understand how he can say this.
Mr. Speaker, I've been in this House
since 1845.
A Prime Minister accused the opposition of getting some guts. It was a serious accusation, nothing happened. And then worse, I heard the C word being accepted as a language that can be used in this House. My personal view is that I don't agree with a thing that Chlöe Swarbrick said at all, but this is a robust House where people have a right to express their views as passionate as they may within certain rules, but I do not think that eviction was warranted. That's my position.
So Winnie doing a bit of a classic, I don't support the words that were said, but the person who was saying it, or however that saying goes. But then again, as I said, he then added his vote yes to have her removed, which is a bit strange. And finally, before we go to the news story, before I throw to you, the other thing is what penalties have been served to people in this term over offensive words they've said in Parliament. Calling someone spineless will get you ejected. And remember, yesterday it was for the rest of the week. Obviously that changed, but it's ejected again today. What about some other words that have been said in Parliament this week, this term, that haven't got people ejected?
I do want to be able to assure...
I'm just going to go back because here we go.
Point of order. Your Speaker, I understand the need for you to make a ruling on what you find offensive. As Honourable Winston Peters has alluded to, there were many of us that were offended by the cunt word. But what I do want to be able to assure is that spineless is a word, and it looks like the ruling is a political suppression. And we do need to make sure that what the member was doing was speaking out about human rights. And we do not want to be a house that's making decisions that are suppressing an opinion on the rights of Palestinians. That's what the debate was about.
I'm sorry, that's not a point in this discussion. There is no question in the heads of almost everybody in this House that there is a tragedy of humanity.
Genocide. That was the word you were fumbling for there, Jerry. The word is genocide.
Tragedy of humanity taking place in Gaza at the present time. In my opinion, most of the House would agree with that. But then to take it further and say that unless there is agreement over a private member's bill, then members are acting in a spineless fashion. That's not acceptable. I won't accept it.
To take it further, Chlöe, to talk about, I mean, like they're saying 60,000, but let's be honest, a couple of 100,000 Palestinians killed. But then to go to the next level, be still my heart, and call someone spineless? How dare she? Now, I want to play the One News story as well. I know you've got some stuff. Do you want to put your stuff now? Or shall we give the whole context? Because there is some more footage about, for example, other things said in the House in the One News story. Do you want to do that first, or do you want to come in and show your stuff first?
Oh, look, since we're talking about the big dog, the man that is offended about insults being directed at other members, let's start with the big dog, shall we?
Okay.
During the general debate, November 2006, Brownlee said of another MP, and you can fill in the gaps who this might be, I'll tell you what, that member would be rejected by the glue factory.
Oh. Well, that's pretty offensive.
Other examples of Brownlee's quips, he referred to MP Tracy Martin's leadership predicament with the question is, what has Tracy Martin done? The answer is nothing, which is probably why she's in this situation. She also described Labour MP Megan Woods as having a Kardashian-esque makeover, which screams ambition. So look, these guys love slinging words at each other. And I think to suddenly get all fucking bent out of shape over this is pathetic. Pathetic. She didn't point at someone and said, you have no spine. The classic example is how John Key referred to the entirety of the Labour Party as he sent troops to Iraq on Anzac Day. In a very robust debate, he called them gutless cowards.
Yeah. But gutless is on the front of the body, spineless is on the back, so maybe spineless is worse. I mean, I don't know.
This is the second time that we have had a judgment out of Parliament that is out of proportion, out of precedent, and directed at one side of the House. So, I don't know. Once might be an aberration. Twice seems to be a little bit of a trend.
All right, so let's get to the story now. This is One News tonight, and One News does quite a good take on this. They do show footage of that. Can I just say that infamous gutless line, and it is actually said in such an aggressive, angry way. I'm actually surprised that there's even any debates over it. Let's have a look.
Protesters gathered outside Parliament after the Greens co-leader was kicked out of the House. Chlöe Swarbrick ejected again today after she refused to apologise for a comment that offended the Speaker. Now Winston Peters is coming to her defence, and as the drama unfolded, Christopher Luxon accused Israel's leader of having lost the plot in his war with Gaza. Here's senior political reporter Benedict Collins.
It wasn't a huge protest at Parliament, but they sure made some noise, urging our politicians to get tough on Israel.
This has got to stop. People are being slaughtered.
The fact that there is mass starvation, mass killing, mass displacement.
This is just well beyond ridiculous. The war crimes after war crimes after war crimes.
And inside Parliament, the Green co-leader wasn't backing down.
I invite Chlöe Swarbrick to withdraw and apologise for an offensive comment made in the House yesterday.
I won't be doing that, Mr. Speaker.
And the member will leave the House. The member refusing to leave the House. I therefore name Chlöe Swarbrick.
She was eventually voted out.
The member will leave the House.
This is yesterday's comment she's refusing to apologise for.
If we find 6 of 68 government MPs with a spine, we can stand on the right side of history.
That is completely unacceptable to make that statement. Withdraw and apologise.
No.
Then leave the House for the rest of the week.
I think I just saw a message go past talking about doing it again tomorrow. I hope they do, and I hope she does exactly the same thing. Because this is now, because if Winston Peters is telling Brownlee to pull his head in, and this is him about to share again what we just shared from the House, this is now an embarrassment for the Speaker, much more so than for the politicians. I hope she does. I hope they do ask her again, and I hope again she refuses, and they go through the whole process again. It'll be that'll show where the power is, and it'll be with her.
Winston Peters thinks the Speaker's neutering Parliament.
I didn't agree with one thing she said, but it wasn't offensive enough to be booted out.
Do you think he should back down on this?
If you can have John Key saying get some guts, or accept the C word, which was outrageous, then how could she have been offensive in that context?
I was in the House when John Key told us as the opposition we needed to get some guts.
Yeah, he's right. It still irks me that he voted to kick her out then. Why wasn't it 10-1 for ACT if he feels that way? So he's right, but he's still towing the line.
And he got a standing ovation from the National Party, including Jerry Brownlee.
He's not wrong.
Get some guts and join the right side.
Today, though, Jerry Brownlee totally appalled.
And I've got to be quite straight up with you.
I think guts and join the right side.
Today, though,
I think just because he's got quite a unique silhouette, that will be Jerry Brownlee right there. Not just did he stand, he was the first to stand. Right, so let's just not get it twisted. When we cut back again, I'll go and I'll play it one more time. You have a look over here. I mean, there's a few at the back here, but he's like one of the first to stand.
And he got a standing ovation from the National Party, including Jerry Brownlee.
He's not wrong.
Get some guts and join the right side.
Today, though, Jerry Brownlee totally appalled.
And I've got to be quite straight up with you. I personally found it deeply offensive.
As for Chlöe Swarbrick,
what I am more concerned about is the people who are being slaughtered and starved in Gaza.
The Prime Minister says he is...
I just want to make a comment about that as well, Pat. In all of the media interactions she has had, she has refocused it away from herself and what was going on Parliament and whether it makes sense, whether they're silencing her. And she has used this focus to, again, point people at the real issue. That while we talk about all of this shit, the wholesale murder in Gaza goes on.
Yeah. How many people in Gaza, how many Palestinians have literally been killed between when this happened at about 2:30 yesterday afternoon and now? Like literally how many? Dozens, if not hundreds.
I just want to applaud her for absolute on message what's really important here. And keeping that in the forefront, that is to be commended, and she's done a great job here.
We'll do it again, but Robbie Cleland with a brutal super chat there. It'll come out at the end, though. You'll all see. It's brutal. All right, let's get to the end of the story.
in Gaza.
The Prime Minister says he is too.
Now, this thing about the Prime Minister, why the what word are we using now, Chu? Why the nincompoop? We're saying that instead of fuck, eh? Is that right? Why the nincompoop are we now needing to take a month? Jerry Brownlee said, everybody in here agrees. The Prime Minister is about to say Netanyahu's crazy. Why are we waiting for a month to to recognise Palestine? Sounds like the Prime Minister's there. What's the hold up? Unless, of course, he's not there, and this is a little bit of window dressing, which it could be as well.
The Prime Minister says he is too.
What's happening in Gaza is utterly appalling. I think Netanyahu has gone way too far. I think he has lost the plot.
The government will
And
decide
then we
next
are
month
going
whether
to
recognise Palestine. Benedict Collins, One News.
Right, so Chewy, that is the story. What any thoughts you have, sir? Around it's just the hypocrisy of the whole thing.
We have a government that has been, let's be honest, brutally focused on doing whatever the fuck they want as soon as possible. And this is something that is on the table that I would be cheerleading them for fast and decisive action at literally any point.
Yeah.
I am ready with my golf clap if he followed through going, yes, what is going on in Gaza is out of all proportion. It's very clearly a genocide. Netanyahu's a fucking crazy man that needs to wind his neck in. And so therefore we are going to do the following actions. He was so close to not being called a jellyfish man. And then at the finish line, where someone would have presented him a gold-plated spine to install, he swerved and just left it hanging. So he's going to let old man Peters fucking shuffle around, talking to Turkey, talking to Malaysia, talking to Indonesia for some fucking reason before we decide what to do. We are literally going to turn up late and short.
Look, and let me just say, I want to put a few, caveats around the chat, because even though we're kind of pointing out the hypocrisy, we don't need to get too mean in the chat. I mean, Ning Nong. I mean, come on.
Look, no, we have such a polite chat that no one has busted out the most devastating insult a New Zealander can call another person. I haven't seen anybody call Chris a fucking egg.
I thought you were going to say wanker. That's a good New Zealand one. And out of interest, which interests me, the word ning nong originates from British dialect, specifically Northern England, apparently. And it says, does get used in New Zealand? Ning nong. There you go. Okay, now we have, let's do super chats and then we'll get into the next part of the conversation. David says, Luxon is a jellyfish graphic. Bubba says, when did that go?
Oh, sorry, that's me. Sorry.
Bubba said, we need baldy locks. I guess that means as a t-shirt or something. Oh, more of them. Fetu says, ninny muggins. A cotton-headed ninny muggins.
Ninny
you know where that's
muggins.
From? That's from
I
Alf.
don't, but I love it.
That's from Alf. That's from Will Ferrell's movie. A cotton-headed ninny muggins. That's where that's from. Jerry Brownlee is mad he didn't get any AGM donuts. Robbie Cleland showed the part where Winston Peters stands up saying he opposes Chlöe. Yeah, well, we did that. Thank you, Robbie, for the work there. Citizen says they were not accused of being spineless. Chlöe just asked for 6 of them that have a spine to step up if they took offence.
Exactly.
That's on them. James says, in March last year, James Shaw called National Party's Blue-Green Caucus an absolute Potemkin village of toothless spineless people. Oh my God. Well, maybe because you added toothless in there, it wasn't offensive for some reason. Robbie Cleanland, this is what we said was fairly brutal. Being first to stand is impressive for a man of Jerry's girth. I can say those jokes, Joey, because
you were a bigger fella.
I'm there. I'm still there. Kai Mātara, as a foreign minister in 2017, Brownlee wrote to Netanyahu saying, "Our goal is to get the relationship between New Zealand and Israel back on track."
That.
I have to do some research on that one. Speed locked NZ, easy to get bent out of shape for those with no spine. And I think finally for this time, Hadron Collider. Brownlee's a douchebag, but can we stop with the fat jokes? Joking about his appearance makes it okay for anyone to do it about women MPs online. Don't necessarily agree. And I think because I own the F word, I'm allowed to use it. So I hear you. We hear you.
I do acknowledge the point that's being made. It is something that I try to stay away from, as comments about people's appearance. I don't always win, but I do try.
We are going to move on now, and hopefully he won't jump too much when we bring him in early, because originally we were going to do a story and then grab Craig Rennie to come have a chat with us, but Craig's already in the green room, so maybe we should just see. Hello, Craig, if you want to come on now.
Kia ora. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Do you want to just jump in? Because we were going to get you at the end of the story, but seeing you're here, do you want to just hang with us and do the story with us as well?
Of course.
Okay, well, let's do that, shall we? It was announced today that Jacinda Ardern would not, now I think they said quite carefully, attend live the hearings. I don't know if they completely said we'll have no part in it, or I don't know if they said they wouldn't do it behind closed doors, but wouldn't do it in a public setting. And the reason that was given in this story, it's at the end of it, I cut that bit off, was because they don't want, Jacinda, and I think Chris Hipkins was the same, didn't want the footage to then be used by nefarious actors spinning a yarn. But, oh, yes, I see that hand, Craig.
As I understand it, all of the people who were asked to give representation in public had already provided that Royal Commission with a representation privately, and they were going to be asked exactly the same questions, just in public. Therefore, because they had already provided all of the answers, there was no additional value in providing that information in public.
So for clarity, are you saying, because I did hear Chris Hipkins, I think it is in this story, saying, I made myself available for 2 hours and they ran after questions after an hour. Are you saying that they did that in the second COVID inquiry, not the first one, or was that in the first one?
In this COVID inquiry,
okay.
To the best of my knowledge, is that to the best of my knowledge, they've already have been asked and answered a whole range of questions from these from this committee. They were then asked to have another round of questions, but this time in public. They would be saying the same things that they have already said.
So, okay, let's go through the story and then have a look at that, because if that is the case, then it is just theatre, isn't it?
Yeah, that is essentially the challenge, yes.
Yeah. All right. So let's have a look at the story overall between some of the people leading our country through the COVID crisis, turning down an opportunity to make public statements and answer questions publicly.
She fronted regularly during COVID, but former Prime Minister Dame Jacinda Ardern's now refusing to front at the Royal Commission of Inquiry into the pandemic. Also declining other major government players at the time, Chris Hipkins, Grant Robertson and Dr. Aisha Verrill. They'll still cooperate with the inquiry, but the lack of decision makers appearing in person has forced the cancellation of the next public hearings. Political editor Mikey Sherman has more.
They led the country through an unprecedented pandemic, which sent the world into lockdown, borders closed, businesses brought to their knees.
We will continue to be your single source of truth. We will.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember that, Chlöe. When did that happen? Well, I probably was away for the weekend or something and missed it. I just don't recall. Don't recall what they're talking about.
Provide information frequently. We will share everything we can.
But now neither she nor her former ministers want to share, not publicly at least. Jacinda Ardern, Chris Hipkins, Grant Robertson and Aisha Verrill.
Well, actually, see that, Craig, what you just said and what Mikey Sherman just said, the way she says it, it does add, it sounds like they're adding a bit more, a bit more pith to it, a bit more vinegar to it. Like, well, they don't want to be involved. It's like, if it's the same questions, then the only difference is public camera on rather than, I guess, submissions without the camera on.
Again, this is to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah.
What has been both reported and what is the case.
But Mikey does say when it comes to publicly, at least, and that's like it sounds like she's saying the same thing, but it's like it also sounds like Mikey is taking a bit of a come and do it. Like to me, it sounded like it had there was a bit more of an angle there. We'll just listen to what she says again.
Nor her former ministers want to share, not publicly at least. Jacinda Ardern,
Which means they have or are going to share privately.
Yes, they have.
What you said.
Hipkins, Grant Robertson and Aisha Verrill refusing to front for the public hearings in the second phase of the Royal Commission of Inquiry into COVID-19.
I've appeared before the media every day. I answer public questions every day. If anyone has any questions on COVID, they get a daily opportunity to ask me those questions.
People are at a heightened level of anxiety. That's understandable. There is one source of truth, though, when it comes to these things, and that's the announcements we make here.
Well, he was happy to be in our living rooms at 1 p.m. every day from the so-called podium of truth. Where's he gone? What's changed?
Well, the podium of truth has become the podium of secrecy. I think Chris Hipkins should be fronting up.
The other thing, though, Craig, to figure out is I'm assuming, therefore, all of those answers and their interviews will be made publicly available, possibly in the written form. So if they are all exactly the same as you say, then there's no secrecy. They're just not doing it in front of a camera with the public watching live.
It will depend upon what exactly the Royal Commission publishes. But yes, in theory, the Royal Commission could make whatever transcript it wished to public, subject to, privacy conditions. But yes, it could make everything else public.
You would imagine, though, they if not 100% of it, most of what has been said in a private setting, not private as in, a secret, but behind, outside of the public's, will then be made available in transcript to people, which means what Bish just said is wrong. It will be public, likely. It won't be kept private, like secret.
You may forgive me for not being surprised that Chris Bishop is using somewhat different rhetoric to the actuality when it comes to what's really happening.
All right.
Phase of the inquiry was born from ACT and New Zealand First coalition agreements. Chris Hipkins argues he's already provided written evidence and been interviewed by the inquiry panel.
I attended the interview that they scheduled for me. They had asked for 2 hours. They ran out of questions after an hour.
Mask mandates, isolation and vaccines were all part of decisions made by the previous government. In a statement, the Royal Commission said the public being able to see former ministers questioned about those decisions would significantly enhance public confidence in the inquiry processes.
Well, I think New Zealanders deserve answers as to the huge scale of the COVID spend-up that we are now all bearing the consequences of.
Giving evidence publicly every day for the last 5 years.
So, what do the public think?
I think they should. It's a bit disappointing, really.
That's a long time ago. People have forgotten about it.
It is interesting, though, now, because what these people on the street should be asked is, should they sit in front of a camera and give the same answers to the questions they've just been asked already, or would you be happy just to read a transcript of what they've already said? That's the question.
If I might go further than that, Pat, holding a meeting, holding the inquiry costs $1 value every hour, right? Would you rather have ministers of the Crown and former ministers of the Crown hauled in front of a camera in front of the public to answer questions that they've already answered and for which the committee already has answers? And then, or would you rather that money went somewhere else?
Yeah. All right. This has only got about 30 seconds to go.
I think there might be a benefit.
To be honest, I think that this commission is just a showboat.
I think if questions are posed about anything, people should respond just in terms of natural justice.
Calling them the lockdown overlords, the ACT Party said refusing to front publicly was avoiding responsibility.
People are still traumatised from missing out on...
Has he performed and spoken publicly much about his previous president? The guy that they sent the potential victims to lawyers, not the police. Has he been publicly held accountable for that? And Have we had some kind of inquiry to get him in front of a camera to answer those questions? I
tried to ask that question and almost got punched in the face. So it's that. I was doing it through a megaphone. And
I mean, like, you know, if you've answered the questions in writing behind the scene, but I can see them anyway, versus not answering the questions at all about this predator and sex offender that was a part of your party that you seemed, and I'll say appeared to be careful, to want to kind of sweep a little bit under the carpet so you have less blowback on yourself. I mean, maybe we should start a queue up of these people that we can get in front of cameras. Maybe we could start with David Seymour. Maybe he could be a man of his word, stand up and stand in front. We could start there and then go on to Chris Hipkins. How about that? I'm just a thought, just thinking out loud, you know.
Seeing their dying loved ones or missing the birth of their child because of the restrictions that these people put in place.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt all these things. Can I also add that we all supported? I mean, that we all voted to support. We're going to add that bit in there as well. So that David Seymour voted for up to a point until they found it politically expedient not to support it anymore.
I don't think it's unreasonable to show up for an hour or two and actually give your side of the story for the posterity of the nation.
The impacts of the global COVID pandemic still raw for many.
All right. Now, Craig's here for a very specific reason, but Chlöe, do you want to chat about the actual non-performance? Yep.
I hated the tone of that piece.
Okay.
Going back to the well of the single source of truth, talking about the spend, all of that, I hated it. I hated it. For those vox pops, for the people the woman going, oh, well, I think she should say something. My follow-up question is, what did you think of what she said during the first inquiry? Did you pay attention to that at all? Yeah. Were you aware of that at all? Because it wasn't in the media as much as this one for some mystery reason. Whenever Seymour gets up or Bish gets up, I would love there to be some context about what they were saying during COVID. Mountain Tui's just put up a graphic of what David Seymour said in 2021. ACT wanted to launch a policy to see fully vaccinated Kiwis receive a $250 tax credit. All very clearly behind the vax there. Winston Peters was no jab, no dole. And Andrew Bailey was saying that businesses needed help urgently. So the government wasn't doing enough, wasn't spending enough. But now we're all goldfish. Remember none of this. And so they can reframe and go, this reckless government put us in this position. They spent money recklessly. When at all corners, those guys in the coalition were criticising our government at the time for not doing enough. They forget that we remember things. They forget that the internet exists. Like these guys, the media cannot let them run their talking points without pushback on this. This is part of their job to the population, to be our memory, to be their conscience at every opportunity.
Yeah. Craig, we're going to get into the financial stuff next, but do you want to share anything on more the kind of, I guess, the broader picture around the Jacinda not appearing and the we've had a night of pearl clutching, I guess, haven't we? And the Seymour pearl clutching. Yeah.
A couple of quick things. Lest we forget, the various reliable studies we've had on this from the New Zealand Medical Journal estimated that we saved 20,000 lives as a consequence of the actions around COVID. And we had a very public and extremely expensive contest to see whether or not the public liked what the government was doing at the time. It was called the 2020 election. In that, the Labour government won the first MMP majority in history and was incredibly popular at the time for saving tens of thousands of lives, keeping the economy going. And all around the world, New Zealand was seen as a beacon of reason, hope, and a great place to be. We've now turned in parts into a basket case. We are now relitigating various bits of this process, and we seem to be hell-bent on asking questions until someone gets an answer that they can get outraged by. This is, this is madness, right? This, as you said at the beginning, Pat, this is political theatre masquerading as analysis rather than actually any kind of deeper understanding of what's really going on or what went on at that point in time in New Zealand.
And look, I try and be gentle with the people who have been deceived in this, but my dudes and dudettes, it's been long enough, right? If you're still going down that path and you're still choosing to ignore all the evidence, all the science, all the backing, and you're still listening, if you've got like Winston Peters on one shoulder and David Seymour on the other, and I don't know, Chantel Baker down your back or something, it's time to go past that. And I'm not saying, oh, let's just get over it. I just like you need to come back. Come back. We'll have you back. Come back. Because you're fighting, you're basically flat earthers now. You're flat earthers of this world, and it's time to stop. It's time to come back. It's time to stop.
Well, if I mean, Pat, just because we don't have a shortage of things right now to worry about in New Zealand today. We have rising unemployment. We have rising child poverty. The globe appears to be burning, right? Half of the country can't afford to put the heating on, right? There's plenty of things that we need actually to be tackling, yet one of the first media items today is this story. There's plenty of things to actually really be, getting into. To me, we're attempting to relitigate something like that, but not only happened many years ago, it happened many years ago very successfully, and New Zealand should be rightly proud of its response to COVID.
Yeah, 100%. And finally, one more thing to those people who got fooled by the disinformation dozen. And one of the things you actually were very, very angry about is things like being tracked by a government through QR codes and how dangerous that all was. And even there's tracking devices in vaccines if you're going to go that far. If that's who you are and that's where you've gone, can you please look into the government tracking every single car in the country to charge you road user charges? This is actually something that is going to happen. Christopher Bishop said it, so we'll know where you are and what you're doing. He literally said it. So we actually need what you think you learned in the last 5 years to come to the forefront now, because we actually do have a genuine, fearful, Orwellian thing going on with a government saying that you're going to get charged RUC charges, road user charges, RUCs, by being tracked in all your journeys, when there is already a system that works. Chlöe and I pay our road user charges for our EVs. There's already a system that works. We don't have to be tracked. That is actually something happening now. And if those people who made the loudest noises about the fear of mandates and tracking aren't speaking out about this, that just goes to show you that they're dishonest actors and they're grifters, because this is a real thing. That was a make-believe thing. Anyway,
I look forward, Pat, to the government making this database available to people so that when their cars are stolen, they can now track where they're going, where they are in the real world.
Yep, and also, if you've got a parking ticket that's gone into overdraft, coming out from the supermarket and finding your car clamped because they know exactly when you are, where you are, thanks to the system. All right, now, Craig, the reason you are here, and I've got that graph ready to go, so when you say bring it, it's ready to go. We want you to address this thing that Bish said, but a lot of people believe, and we're hearing now. I wrote down the word, the spend up. The spend up the last guys did, that if you listen to a Seymour, a Bishop, a Luxon, they are saying has put this country, we're in one of the worst states in the world from any country after going through COVID. They may not literally say that, but that's certainly the impression they're giving. So educate us, please, sir.
Sure. First of all, I'm indebted to musical chairs on both X and Blue Sky, who has pointed this out the first time, and I just needed to collect the data to make sure. The government's been accused because of an IMF calculation, so that's the International Monetary Fund, which has looked at all of what it calls the stimulus spending during COVID. And that put New Zealand second top in terms of the stimulus spending for COVID. The government has then used that as a stick to then say, look, we spent lots of money. That lots of money led to inflation. That inflation was the cost of living challenge that you're all facing. There is a relationship between these two things. Ergo, the previous government caused the problems that we have now. Right? Okay. The challenge we have is that that IMF chart is that COVID stimulus chart. What is considered COVID stimulus is simply whatever that country said COVID stimulus was, or labeled COVID stimulus. There are many programs around the world where government spent money, but it wasn't classified as COVID stimulus. The challenge for New Zealand is we labelled everything as COVID stimulus. And as a consequence, everything gets recorded as COVID stimulus. It makes New Zealand look much higher than it really is. So if it was true that New Zealand was the second top in terms of COVID stimulus, and as a consequence, we were able, therefore, we should be able to trace that in the CPI data and the Consumer Price Index data, and we should see New Zealand clear and far away of every other advanced or developed country in the world that was also delivering stimulus packages around the time. And if you pull the chart up, Pat, you can see a chart which has lots of grey and black lines on. These are the 35 countries of the European Union, Japan, Korea, Singapore, the US, Canada, a range of other developed countries around the world. And what you can see is a red line inside all of those grey lines. That red line is New Zealand. And that is New Zealand inflation versus the rest of the world's inflation during that period of time. What you can see is that New Zealand's inflation is bang average in comparison to everywhere else. So we can take this back to 2016 when New Zealand's inflation was bang average. We can take this forward to Q2 2025 when New Zealand's inflation is bang average. We can see during the middle when COVID turns up. So you can see sort of essentially from 2022, so from 2020 Q3 onwards, there's the spike, the increase in New Zealand when inflation for us reached the grand sum of 7% and a bit. Around the rest of the world, it was spiking up to 25. Now, around the rest of the world, there were also some other reasons why that was the case. So some of those countries are jurisdictions that bordered with the Ukraine at that point in time, and there were reasons for the inflation at that point there. But New Zealand's inflation experience is unremarkable in comparison to any other jurisdiction in the world. So the relationship between that COVID spending and that CPI inflation, there's no relationship in this chart. There is, however, just simply a story of global inflation driving inflation in the majority of countries right around the world, and then easing. And New Zealand's easing cycle happens, as you see, in exactly the same way as the rest of the world's easing cycle happens. Again, there's nothing exciting or new or different about this data.
It's almost like you're saying it didn't really, or it probably didn't matter who was in charge over COVID, but generally the New Zealand government pre-COVID, during COVID, and now post-COVID has stayed exactly where it's pretty much always been for inflation, which is boringly in the middle.
And that's because New Zealand is a global price taker for many goods, right? New Zealand, we don't set the price of oil. We just take it, right? And as a consequence, when the price of oil goes up, guess what? We have inflation, right? When the price of wheat, when the price of other imported foodstuffs comes to New Zealand, we don't set the price for those goods. That is globally set. So as a consequence, we experience global inflation. Unsurprisingly, our inflation therefore looks like global inflation. When you see, as we did during COVID, the price of international shipping spiked because ships weren't leaving anywhere, right? Now, why does that affect New Zealand? Well, New Zealand is 3 time zones away from the nearest other country. So any global shipping impact flows through to pricing in New Zealand, where we like to think of ourselves as a plucky country, and we are, at the bottom of the South Pacific. right? Great. But in economic terms, what's happened with inflation is we are amongst the most average countries anywhere in the developed world.
I mean, Craig, it sounds like what you're describing is, tell me if this is fair. Because of our isolation, we should have done better than most with the COVID virus, which we kind of did. But because of our isolation, we probably should have done worse than most when it comes to inflation. And we didn't. We stayed average. Is that a fair statement?
Well, certainly being isolated from the rest of the world gave us the opportunity to do well during COVID, our relative isolation. And the fact we don't have land borders where people can, walk over. We executed that really well, and we got the good results that we saw. But you're right, because we're such an importer of many essential goods in New Zealand, that also meant we were much more exposed to global inflation. Our global inflation arguably could have been much higher, because tradable inflation, the stuff we import, the physical stuff we import, we have to import it. We don't have any other means of getting it here. So, inflation could have been much higher. One of the ironies here is that many of the government's programs may well have helped to contribute to inflation remaining lower, because there was money in pockets. People didn't have spikes in demand. People were still able to go to the shops. People were still able to do things. And as a consequence, that's why our inflation arguably looks better than it could have done for a country which was so isolated when global supply chains essentially stopped.
Now, how do we inform the other 5.555999 million New Zealanders about this, so we don't have to sit there and hear the bullshit again and again and again and again? How do we inform the journalists who get to talk to these guys how to actually then ask the next question when Luxon goes off about 7% inflation and how terrible and the spend up, and how do we get that out there?
Well, this is not new news, right? This data is publicly available. It's widely disseminated by international organizations. There are plenty of people who could be going out there and saying, well, was New Zealand's experience unique or different or unusual? And they're not. They're not, because there's no story in that. It's not much of a story for me coming along and saying there's no story here. It doesn't sell any newspapers.
Yeah.
Right? The challenge we have is, how do we sell that as a story of essentially the challenge that you've been sold, and the response to that challenge, which is to cut public services, which is to cut benefits for 18, 19-year-olds, right? To roll back essential investment in New Zealand because we were all doing it a bit tough, right? Prices were all a bit high. These things don't necessarily need to be happening in the way they are, because our inflation experience looks just like everywhere else.
Yeah. Chlöe, anything you want to throw at the our human calculator here before we let him go?
I'm just amazed that a isolated trading nation didn't escape any consequences when it comes to the economy or inflation. Like, the government seems to be pretty unhappy. If you could hit the rewind button and go into the COVID situation with one single focus, we can't have any inflation. The lines can't move. That's the only thing we're worried about, because the election's down the road. What would we have had to do to keep that line flat?
We could have adopted what Spain did during various parts of the cost of living challenges, which is price controls. Right. You could have said rent is going to remain flat. You could have said we're going to regulate pricing in supermarkets. You could have said we're going to introduce rationing for various goods and services, right? That is one means by which you could have achieved the price stability, Chlöe, that you wish. It probably wouldn't have lasted very long, because you would have created very large black markets for all these goods and services. But in terms of they're frankly, what the government of the day took the scientific evidence and said the best economic response is the best public health response. And that's what we prove, was that the best public health response, the response that saved thousands of lives, right, meant that we saw our economy didn't collapse, right? We saw a downturn in the immediate COVID period because we shut the country down. But when we opened the borders back up, it rose back again. Apart from that shutdown period, there was no recession under the previous government. Growth was 2.4% at the last election on average. Growth at this next quarter is likely to be negative again because we've kicked the confidence out of the economy by doing many of the things the government thought it needed to do to tackle the cost of living, when our experience looks just like everywhere else.
Yeah. Hey, we've got a request here. Marion wants that graph on a t-shirt. Sounds like we've got some maybe some locked out merch.
That's what Craig's. That's what
dream,
your merch line.
Yeah.
That's what the locked out merch line is going to be. Is just a series of t-shirts with graphs on them.
Now, speaking of episode for tomorrow, featuring G News. This is this information photo that we've talked about with that graph. That's from tomorrow's episode, but there's a lot more as well. Do you want to give us a bit of a précis for what's happening in tomorrow's show?
Sure. So the Treasury's put out a document called its Long-Term Insights Briefing. That insight briefing essentially is a sort of a manual, a kind of an instruction to government about how the country might respond if we had another downturn or another big shock like COVID or a war or something else. And what would the government do? And what should the government do with its fiscal policy, i.e. spending, taxation, investment, all of that stuff? It will not shock you to understand that the Treasury doesn't like spending, likes tidy accounts, and thinks that the best thing that can happen is that we do extremely little at all. But it says that in lots more words and, frankly, some fairly troubling analysis on the way through. So I won't spoil the fun or ruin the ending, but there are plenty of things again in there to get pretty annoyed about, because the Treasury essentially believes that shoulder pads, telethons, and smoking indoors, the 1980s are back, and they're back for fiscal policy, and we should fight that as hard as is humanly possible. Because I come from a country where we applied that fiscal policy in the 1980s, and the communities back where I'm from are still struggling as a consequence.
And all the Craig Rennie fans, not all of them, that would sound wrong, but some of the Craig Rennie fans are down for this. There's already 3 people waiting for that to go live at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. So, they're getting down. The Rennies. What do we call like the people who are your fans? The
Rennies? Good Lord.
That works, doesn't it? Are you a Rennie? I'm a Rennie. Oh, look, here we go. People are even already talking. First comment, and they want a graph t-shirt. So there you go. All right, Craig. Hey, look, thanks for jumping on. Apologies, we took longer to get to you than we thought, but always appreciate your analysis. That episode comes out, if you're watching us on YouTube, on this network, the Big Hairy Network, at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. It's on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and the other podcast places pick it up as well. But they're the 3 best places for you to find it: YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. Thanks, Craig. And I know that, just to say, Chewy, we are in a safe space. I know you're a bit freaked out not to see like a collar on with Craig. I know that's a bit scary when you see him like
after that
clothes.
Sort of collar. Sorry, went to a completely different place. Shirt and tie.
It's a very different show, Chewy.
Yeah.
But
that's for patrons only. That one.
Yes.
Is that his late night show? Locked Up.
Locked Up. There you go. Hey, thanks, Craig. Have a good one, mate. All the best. All right, cheers. A couple of super chats there, and then we'll get to the last story of the day, which Chewy is chomping at the bits to get at. Arvid says, I knew there was some theatre kids in the coalition of chaos. Peter says, conspiracists often are in it for the belief. They have a secret knowledge. It massages their egos in believing that the rest of us are rubes. Yeah, or on the same thing, it also them being the experts. I've had a lot of experience with the flat earth community. And the dismissive nature they have for the the Earth. I was going to say the globe Earth. It's just the Earth and all the answers they think they have. It's very dismissive. All right, so the fans of the Rennie boys and girls. Not bad. Rennie boys, Rennie girls. Sounds like another merch line there. Thank you, Arvids. And Tane just says, does New Zealand have a mass memory problem or something? It feels like it. Yeah, it's either a mass memory problem or it's calculated. You know, it's that idea of, if I have to accept that as truth, what does that mean about all my other stuff? It's a motivated cognition. It's true.
This is also a function of our media as well, which I think is missing. Is like sometimes in the search to present both sides of an argument that they don't give the correct weighting to this. This is also
the 50-50 thing.
Yeah, this is also a function of our media, is to be our collective memory at times as well. And so this is why I've been really concerned post-pandemic, for lack of a better term, that certain things are getting reframed in the media, or they're playing to sound bites coming from the government or the former opposition and that sort of thing, because they're nice snappy headlines and they do get clicks and they do get the engagement that they want and that sort of thing. But calling something a spend up, playing to the government's tack of saying, look, the reason that cost of living is out of control is because the previous guys spent way too much and we told them that they were spending too much. No, you didn't. You told them to spend more.
Yeah.
Globally, our debt to productivity levels was really low. We have lots of headroom to borrow. We've talked about it on this show. There are countries with humming productivity, a humming economy, that just don't care about their debt, because it's just a rotating door, and they keep on building roads and they keep on building hospitals and they keep on providing for their citizens.
It actually comes up in the podcast tomorrow, and Craig points out, I think our debt to GDP is 23% or something. And I can't remember the exact countries, but I mean, Australia was like 30, and Japan was like 95, and like the US was like 125%. So, yeah.
New Zealand is one of the only countries that has such a big focus on the national debt.
I could show you a graph.
And
you should tune into Craig's podcast. You'll see the graphs on Craig's podcast.
We'll put it on a fucking t-shirt for him. You know, and this is the thing. Like, this ties into what I'm saying about the media. The media is happy to repeat those talking points and then not take the next step of, we looked into what the minister said, and compared to other similar countries or countries with a similar economy or whatever, our debt loading is really low. So if we were to increase borrowing to, say, buy some 50-year infrastructure like ferries and port facilities for ferries, or a chain of building hospitals, or bringing back heavy and light rail, those would be good things to borrow for. It's also good to have that in your back pocket if you have a global catastrophe.
Yeah.
We don't get these conversations in our media. So we just have one side of the house saying the other guys are going to tax and spend, and the other side of the house going, these guys are going to borrow to give to landlords, which is a poor use of that money. And it's not telling us, there's not that third part, what is it, the fourth estate? Saying, hey, look, both of these guys are kind of wrong. So let's talk about the debt.
Yes. Well done, Chlöe. A couple of other super chats have come in, so we'll just do them before we go into the last story. Mata just asks, where is Shane Retty gone when it comes to the health sector? And, Arvid's answers. We lost Cigaretti, gained Simeon Brownlung. Of course.
Whoa.
All right. We're going to move on now to our last story of the day. We talked a bit about this a little bit on Monday, but there is sort of more information coming out about and this really does fit with the MO of this national-led government, that we want to get rid of Te Reo as much as we can. We want to disappear it, like ICE does to a slightly tanned American, as quickly as possible. And this fits in. And it's one of those things that even if this wasn't a part of that plan, if it was something else, when you've got so many other examples of getting rid of Māori things, getting rid of Te Reo, this just becomes another one.
Welcome back. Education Minister Erica Stanford has imposed a near total ban on Māori words in new additions to a series of books used to teach 5-year-olds to read. She says the inclusion of Te Reo Māori can confuse young readers. But primary school principals say the evidence doesn't support that. Here's senior reporter Juliet Speedy.
Children, sponges for information and for learning language. When kids learn to
What about just kids? Like, there's words like English is a bastardized language. It takes some French, it takes some Latin, it takes some Greek, it has its own words. I mean, I always feel like Māori is it's not an English language, but we use Māori in day-to-day conversation in this country. So what about words that we use all the time that kind of, they aren't English words, but you kind of use them as part of the English language, just like you say croissant instead of whatever else, because it's part of the French language. I mean, there are those kinds of words that if you're not even going to have those in books, that's a massive disservice, let alone anything else.
There's a really key aspect here, and I think Erica Stanford would be good to ruminate on this a little bit. English vowels and Māori vowels are the same. So that's a really core part of learning language, right, is how it sounds. Now you take maybe a really common English sentence full of words that we accept are English. As you said, we've pillaged words from other cultures.
Mm.
You know, go to the cafe, get a croissant, put on your PJs, your pajamas, all of
Park
that
the
sort of
car in the
stuff.
garage.
Whereas because Te Reo wasn't a written language, it's all phonetic. So you can do things with Te Reo, like sound it out based on the vowel sounds that we just learned, and it'll work. Whereas there are so many words in English that don't follow the same vowel structure or the same sounding structure if you're reading them on a page.
Yeah.
Like, people learning English that are coming from other languages have often commented that English is incredibly hard to learn because of that pillaging of other words from other languages. So this whole thing of like, oh, we don't want to introduce Te Reo into learning for these young kids because it'll confuse them is utter bunk.
Yeah.
Like, there's no justification for it.
Peter makes a beautiful point immediately. There's lots of Te Reo in the New Zealand Oxford Dictionary. And look, even if it's, I'll just say one word that most of us, certainly all kids and teachers, what about the Māori words that teachers now use? Kia ora. What? So the teachers of those 5-year-olds aren't, because if you're going to not allow them to read them, surely you're next going to say, and you can't speak them, because if you're speaking words that you're not then learning in books, that's going to be harmful. So is that the next thing? Teachers are going to be instructed not to say kia ora in the morning. Yeah, is that because that would be a logical step? Because if you don't want these kids to be confused by what they read, then surely the logical step would be, I don't want these kids to be confused by what they hear either. We'll keep going with the story.
They're at school to learn.
Yeah.
They will be confused by English words as well.
Yeah.
It's just, what country are we living in?
Yeah, exactly.
Should we start with that?
When kids learn Te Reo alongside English, they don't get confused. You know, they get smarter. The research is crystal clear. We know this. You know, we've seen in Europe, for example, children knowing 4 or 5 languages.
An Education Ministry report shows Stanford decided in October last year to exclude all Māori words except for characters' names from any new books.
That's all words. So we heard something different on the week, and I'm going to play you some of that as well. We heard that 6 words were acceptable, but now we're hearing all words. And this is the thing. Last October, which means when she sat down with Jack Tame, they'd made that decision and she didn't say anything about it. She didn't go, well, actually, Jack, you're not quite right. We're going to exclude all Māori words from books. Because that would have been a bad look.
Education Ministry's Ready to Read Phonics Plus series. The paper showed the decision was driven by concern Māori words were confusing for children learning to read English.
The evidence in New Zealand is that our Te Reo speak and our kura kaupapa and our kura iwi, they're learning 2 languages, and they outperform our mainstream children.
Bingo.
So we shouldn't be afraid of our children learning 2 languages.
Te Reo Māori words are incorporated in English on a daily basis.
Yes.
The phrase kia ora, talking about your family as your whānau. These are words that are now integrated into English, and I don't think we should be afraid to use them in school when kids are learning how to speak English.
Stanford yesterday rejected claims the decision was an attack on Te Reo Māori, pointing to her role in introducing
Not
a new
an
set
attack
of
on anybody
structured
else.
literacy books entirely in Te Reo.
It's actually an attack on the kids as well. You are taking from the kids one of the things, I mean, Chippy said it much more eloquently than I did. You are taking from these kids one of the most unique things, maybe the only unique thing from this education system in this country, and you're removing it from them. So this is bad for the kids.
Released earlier this year.
When I launched those books, I was extraordinarily proud of it. And I invited all of the media, all of you, to come when I launched them at a school. And none of you came. Not one of you.
But the event Stanford is referring to was at Kirikiri Primary School on the 4th of February this year, 2 days out from Waitangi Day.
You come to everything else that I do, but you didn't come to that one. It was really disappointing. It was a good news story.
After questions in the House today, Stanford said she is making change, but not at the expense of Te Reo Māori.
In the new books that will round out the series, a dozen or so that still need to be produced, will still contain Māori words. And to say they're being banned is absolutely wrong.
But it seems how Te Reo fits into books for young readers is a story the government's now rewriting.
So there you go. Do we need to? Do you want to hear a little bit from Q&A in the weekend? Because we didn't cover this on Monday. We could hear what they said, because Jack has a bit of a crack about the 6 words. Whatever squares. We'll give it 30 seconds or so, see where they go.
The Ministry for Education declined to reprint a book for young readers because it had too many Māori words for the structure.
So this is the thing, a book. That's singular.
Well, one
Whereas
book.
the news item just said it was decided in October of last year that there would be a total ban on Te Reo Māori other than people's names in all books. So that's what I'm saying. She knew that and didn't correct him.
A structured literacy phonics-based approach. I think it was a year 1 book for very young readers anyway. There were 6 Māori words, and even though those words are in common use, so words like koro, wharenui, karakia, the ministry declined to reprint it in the form that it was previously being printed and instead sent it out to schools for teachers to read in a big version. Do you support that decision?
Look, I absolutely do. It was 1 reader of 75. All of those 75 readers contain high-frequency Te Reo words. The issue was one around what we call scope and sequence. It's essentially when you are teaching a 5-year-old to learn to read English, you do it in a certain way. You build up sound after sound and then combination of sounds in a structured way.
Sounds.
English is already difficult as it is, and there are a number of words that don't follow the rules you have to remember, so they're called heart words. And when you add Te Reo words in, they also have to be remembered as heart words, memorising the whole word because they don't follow the same vowel sounds. And so that particular book didn't fit with the scope and sequence of all the books. And so we've sent it out to every school as a big book. It's you know, I think the right thing to do. But what I would note at the same time as we've done this, we've also created that exact same resource for the first time ever in Te Reo Māori. We've never had a set of books for learning to read Te Reo in a structured, decodable way. We created those and they're available to use not only for Māori medium kura kaupapa but also for the mainstream.
There you go. That'll do. It's interesting actually because they're saying opposite things. And I don't know Chlöe enough. I don't know enough about Te Reo Māori to agree with you or not, because I always was taught that Māori is a, e, I, o, u, which is different from a, e, I, o, and u. But I think long and short vowel sounds, they're not exactly the same, but they're very similar. And look, I actually find it easier to pronounce, if I have an unknown word in front of me in Māori or in English, I think it's easier to pronounce in Māori because Māori is much more of a phonetical language. And I know when I'm writing addresses on envelopes or addresses on merch, if it's a Māori street name and I say it, I don't have to look back at it because you can sound it out.
Yeah.
If it's an English word, I often have to look back again to make sure that I've got it correct. So I want to know now. Look, and this is just my. I'm not a journalist, but this is sort of my journalistic side. She is saying there is not a ban on Māori words. She said it in the House today. She said it in that story. We are being told there's a ban on Māori words. So there's a discrepancy. Everyone in the chat saying she's lying. You might be right, but this is where I go. I want to know if this is untrue or not, because we're getting different stories from different parties.
I think there's so much to unpack here. Like, by her reasoning in that Q&A interview, we should start teaching kids Te Reo, because that is a language that has consistent rules, whereas English doesn't and is therefore harder and more confusing. But she's saying we should focus on English first because it is too hard and confusing, but if we add in Māori, then that is going to be confusing. Like, I think it is confusing. It's confusing for adults that have already learned a certain way and might already have inbuilt biases, or might find it challenging that their child is learning more Te Reo than they ever had the chance to. This is what I'm kind of like, fuck, I wish they did more of this when I was a kid, because this is the country that I live in. You've done more learning on Te Reo, Pat. And you'll say that it is hard to learn a new language as a fucking adult, because your brain's not as elastic anymore.
Yeah, and
kids are sponges. I want to know who this is protecting and who is really finding it challenging.
Yeah, and like I said,
it's not going to be the kids.
That idea of a year one not having any Māori words, and Chippy said it beautifully. He found the word quickly and said whānau. Who doesn't say whānau? What teacher won't say whānau? And if you're not able to read to your kids Māori words, or you're not able to have the kids read them, then surely the next step would be, well, teachers, we're going to have approved words to say. We know how much this side of government hates words being mandated on you. This is sort of the opposite. This is the English words being mandated. Where are all my conspiracy theorists now for mandating words or non-words?
I'm still picking up bits and pieces. You know, kura is a new word for me, or a reasonably recent new word. When people got all bent out of shape about them going up on school signs. And it's like, well, I'm an adult, never come across this word before. It seems to be on the same sign that used to say school. Well, I've worked that out. Yay me! During COVID.
The truth about that, Chewie, is it still had the word school there as well. They didn't replace the word school. They put that.
This is good. It is good to learn things. And when the Minister of Education is going, yeah, it's good to learn some things, but not all of the things. And certainly we're going to take away some of the things that we have learned in the past because shrug reasons. Please don't say I'm racist. Like, there are, exactly as that comment said, there are so many studies, so many examples from around the world that the more you throw language skills at children, the more is retained and the more it helps their ongoing learning. Study after study after study after study. And this flies in the face of all of that. And the only thing that I can come back to on it is this government doesn't care about research, experts, proof, any of it. Like, Erica Stanford can try and position herself as a more moderate national voice as much as she wants. She can go on Q&A and try and distance herself from Luxon and from Seymour and from everyone else and try to shuffle her place in the deck, ready to pounce. But here she is, front-footing and fumbling the fact that she has instructed the Ministry of Education to remove Te Reo from learner-reader books for bullshit reasons.
And that's why you go remove it from, Te Whata Ora, from government agencies, remove it from road signs, remove it from books. And that's why I'll say even if she thinks there are educational reasons for that, it's like there's too many things lining up. And as we say, we don't trust this government. There's too many other things lining up for us not to go, this just feels like the next way to disappear Te Reo from our landscape, one small child at a time. So when those kids are year one, so 5, 6, they're not going to be able to do it. And then 7, 8, 9, when do you bring it back in? And as I said, what normal adults now with young children, so you're thinking about people in their 20s and 30s probably, aren't using Māori words every day because they are, it sounds weird when you say it out loud, it almost sounds disrespectful, it's not supposed to be, but they're no longer Māori words, they're just our words that we use as society.
Correct. And look, this one of the things about incorporating these things into their learning is that it then becomes normalized and they use it. Like my mate who's an early childhood teacher uses quite a lot of Te Reo. You know, and fuck, I learn words off him all the time because of it. He's also an immigrant. Like, he's had to learn this stuff as an adult, you know, and he can do it, and his preschool kids can do it, and then suddenly when they go into primary school, they're gonna drop it. Like, this is the whole thing about learning, right? You teach someone, you then have a grounding and a foundation for it, and then you teach something else, and you keep going. But here we're not building on it. And that was always the thing, like when you go back into the dusty sands of time when I went through school, like I remember doing sing-songs of vowel sounds and all of that, and you know, having some Te Reo stuff, learning the colours and the letters and the numbers, and then it stopped. And then that was it. And it was never reinforced ever again through the rest of my schooling. After about halfway through primary school. So surely we are better than that now. There's been a whole lot more work done from this. We've probably experienced the same thing from our broadcasting careers, is that there was a lot of, hey, look, we've got to do more to promote language. And like on TV, it was always the weather reports, right? Heaps more. More. And the broadcasting industry tried to put more. My partner's watching New Zealand Treasure Island at the moment. And the amount of Te Reo that is sprinkled through that show is far and above anything that would have happened 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So why is this government so concerned and so willing to pander to people that go, I don't agree with this is too much? Why are they caught lying about it? Why is this a hill that they want to die on? It's bizarre.
Yeah. You've raised a really interesting point as well. Were you aware of that? You probably were.
It does happen sometimes. Oh, before you jump in there, I just want to say, and look, this is me as a friend. Okay, it's because of this. It's because she's been called out lie after lie after. I've got to say, man, Erica Stanford's not right for you.
I was going to give you a compliment there, but you can go fuck yourself now. No, in all seriousness, you made a really interesting point, because there's tons of resources for 0 to 3-year-olds, early childhood education, Te Reo Māori books. So what you just said, which resonates so well, is they'll go to kindy, they'll go to daycare, they'll go to these places and they'll have these books, and some kids at kindy and that, they start to learn to read, and then they'll go to new entrants, and then they'll go to year 1, and all of a sudden they'll all disappear and they won't have them anymore. It's quite bizarre. It's quite bizarre. Anyway, I think it's time to wrap. We've got tons of super chats in there, so let's go get some of those done.
Oh, Dad.
Arvid says, let's just take the chat off so they're not quite so big. There we go. Does she mean it confuses herself? She said, as a parent, I don't even understand NCEA.
Yeah.
She's willfully ignorant. Time to lose the crush pad. Guys, it's not any... Anyway. Danger of mouse. Kindergarten equals German. Cafe equals French. Just a start. Kooky Knit, this is a joke, right? Madness. 8 Vasta, the New Zealand government is banning Māori words because they struggle with projecting that onto kids who could learn it easily, throw racism into it. Brother Monk says kids are smart. It's like she's saying kids are too dumb, so they need to dumb it down. Kai Mātara says English is far harder to understand than Te Reo Māori. It is tough. See, you've got me. Thorough.
Yeah. Thorough.
Throughout.
Throughout.
Throwing. Thoroughly.
Thoroughly.
Tricky.
Yeah.
Thoroughfares in your way. I think I got those all right, but I don't even know, actually. Maybe not. Citizen says, I think the coalition of chaos should be reminded should be renamed to the Coalition of Carnival Clowns. COCC. What about the Coalition of Clowns Carnival? COCK. I don't know, doesn't really work. Speedlock says, learning keeps your brain young. Citizen says, or Coalition of Carnival Clowns. Yeah, there you go. We got there. We're both thinking the same thing. And your brain, says Speedlock. Porava. Te Reo equals Te Reo. Don't say Te Reo. Love you. Te Reo. And Arvid says, want to highlight this comment. Sandra Kay said Elizabeth Rata is Erica Stanford's go-to language.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with Elizabeth Rata, definitely look up certainly her submission into the Treaty's Principle Bill. It'll give you a pretty good indication of where she sits in the value of Māori in New Zealand society. She is not a good guy.
I mean, if you go in and search your name and you get a platform thing that pops up titled Elizabeth Rata on Treaty Sabotage, Yeah.
So sometimes this is really important of who's standing in the shadows behind ministers that are fronting this. Like, what is the quality of the information and the advice that she's getting? And I would say Dr. Elizabeth Rata is a particularly poisonous point of view.
All right, team. It's been a good show tonight. Thank you for being with us. It is Wednesday, Chewy's favourite day, hump day. Don't know why it makes your favourite day, but there you go. And we'll be back tomorrow night, I guess. Anything else going on, Chewy? Anything we need to get out there? I'm biding for time while I go and find the theme song, the theme tune.
No, I think we've had a good show tonight. It's so important that we keep an eye on what is going on. It's going to be a long 12 months. And I think we've got some exciting stuff in that next 12 months, both for BHN and both for the left bloc as far as getting rid of these guys.
We've got such exciting things that we want to do. I had to email Chewy at 2:00 this morning. True, Chewy?
That is true. That is
because I farted out an idea, and I went, if I texted Chewy and his phone's still on, I'd feel bad. So I sent him an email, and I'm not going to tell you what's in that email. There's just lots of exciting plans. So there, and I guess we'll catch all you fellas and fella S's tomorrow night, eh? Kia ora, Pat.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work at what they can afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting bees from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily either this way or that, and we'll be analyzed by what Chewy and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. Big hairy
There we go, Chewy. We're wrapping up. Anything you want to throw at the whānau? Oh, that means family. And sorry, in case you're wondering, in case there's any year ones who are working under Erica Stanford don't know, whānau, it means family. I'll just say family. Throw at the family.
No, I've got nothing. Some of this stuff just stuns me for how dumb it is.
All right, team. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9:00 for the next edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo.
Cheers, fam.